kind of in the way. Yeah. Do you want to plant some hostas too? Do you want to plant hostas too? Yeah. Are you excited to be outside? Not raining? Yeah, we all are. Okay, need to behave. Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. Today I'm going to be planting some hostas into my yard. I picked these two up on a recent shopping trip. Buster. I picked both these plants up on a recent shopping trip. So I have Emerald Rough Cut. It has really fun, narrow, wavy leaves on it. And it's a lighter colored hosta with a darker margin on it. And this one is Dancing Darling. And it doesn't maybe have its brightest color right now, with the light it's been getting, but if you look at the tag, it's supposed to be a very bright yellowy green color with just very fine dark margins, and this one has a bit of a wider leaf. So this one is supposed to get around 2 feet tall and wide, so around 60 centimeters tall and wide, maybe just slightly less. So it's a nice sized, kind of uniformly sized plant. And this one here, I think it's quite a bit larger. So this one stays on the shorter side, so it's only going to get just over a foot or around like 35-40 centimeters tall. And then it will spread out about 2.5 feet or around 75 centimeters. So a good sized plant as far as filling in a space, but not getting too tall. So I have spots in mind for both of these. And then I also have another one from a big order. I did a video several years ago, and I actually can't even see it. But just behind me there's 2 hostas actually. I think in the camera they might almost show up as one. But one is quite spindly and small, just almost right under the staircase. It's not getting as much sun shining and filtering through there as I thought it would. So I'm going to be digging it up and moving it. So hostas like shady places, but some do better with more sun than shade, and you don't want them in complete darkness. And I think that one's it's just maybe just not getting quite that like 2 to 4 hours of filtered sunshine that it would prefer to get. So I just thought I'll move it out and bump it up a little bit into a better spot. So I'll give you a look at it in a minute. It's called Yellow River, and it has a darker green leaf with a bright yellow kind of margin on it. And they're a nice big leaf. And I'm trying to remember now, I think it's something like 1.5 feet, 45 centimeters tall by close to 3 feet, that one, so close to 90 centimeters spread. I'll double check, and if I'm wrong on that, I'll put it up on the screen. And so I'm going to get those 3 hostas planted, and then I thought I would give you a really quick tour at the end in case you've been following my channel long enough to have seen me put these hostas in and you're wondering how they're doing. So it was 2 kind of packages of roots that I got in, and I planted many of them in a video, and I thought it might be time to show you how they're doing. So let's get these hostas planted, and then we'll have a little look around at all the hostas in my yard. So the first hosta that I want to deal with is this dancing, what do I call it? Yellow River. It does have some drip going to it, so it's not that it's just too dry under here. It's just, I think, not getting the light that it needs. We'll dig it up, and we're going to just move it actually just a few feet in the other way, a couple meters, 1.5 meters, and then I think it'll get more morning sun and just be happier that way. So, in here, the afternoon sun kind of comes through from this way a little bit. And this plant here, which is I think also, what is this, Francis Williams, it's really happy back here. You can see it's grown real big, and I'll give you, like I said, a tour later. But this Yellow River, I don't know, maybe it was just a smaller root. I did take some of the roots of those packages, had very tiny ones with them that, you know, weren't counted. Like if it was supposed to be a package of 2 roots, that maybe had 3 and one was really tiny, had maybe even broken off in transport. And so maybe that's just the case, and this one's just really a small root and just needs more time. But I think it will serve me better in another location. It's actually quite wet. Maybe that sprinkler timer needs to go off a little less. We've had so much rain this year. And I know this wasn't doing much last year either, so. It's quite wet in here though. Hostas like lots of water, but I mean, there comes a point where some don't want to be as wet as others. I think I'm underneath the root here. Just gonna tease it up out of the ground. There. I broke a few small roots off of it, but I got the main root, I think, here somewhere in all this clay. It's very heavy clay. It does seem like I got the main root, but I think this is just a really small young hosta, I think, and that can affect how big they're going to grow. Just maybe needs more time, but I'm going to move it out somewhere where it'll get a little better conditions, and then it'll just grow faster and better there. Okay, it's like I was never here. So we'll take this and we're just going to pop it up just a little ways. So I'm just going to be planting it kind of on the opposite side of this control box for my sprinklers that it was before. That's going to mean it's a little bit in my way when I want to access that box, but I really would like something here that kind of hides the box. And hostas, you can kind of work around them. I think that they're bigger leaves than that. You can kind of move them around and get your feet in there and work around them a little bit. So hopefully I don't regret this choice, but that's the choice I've made, so that's where it's going to go. I have brought with me a bucket of just some of my own homemade compost, and I've just sieved it out here just to put a little bit in the planting hole. Hostas don't need a ton of feed. A little top dressing with compost in the spring is pretty much what they require. They're really pretty hardy, tough plants that can take a lot of conditions as long as it's not too hot and dry. They're usually generally pretty happy. So I'm just gonna dig a little hole. It's good to get something that's gonna accommodate all the roots, but with the rock in here, sometimes I can't quite dig in far enough, and I find usually I can just get them popped in and tucked in, and they'll spread out and find their roots around the rocks easier than I can dig in. This has nice roots on it, even though it's not very big. I do think this might have been just a small bit of a plant that was in the package that got planted. Unfortunately, I don't have notes on that. So we'll just dig a hole down here and put a little bit of compost in, put the hosta in, and that one will be pretty much done. So I want to move it back so it's not right over top the control box. It'll be kind of centered between the control box and the little walkway I have here, and also between kind of just coming up to this post and up to the side of the patio. So hopefully it grows somewhat symmetrically and fills in that space. So just move some of this rock out of the way. I didn't think to bring a knife with me, so we'll see. There's landscape fabric in some of these spots. I was just digging in here earlier this spring, so we had to do some changes to our sprinkler system. So this should be a fairly easy dig right here, I think. So these roots aren't very deep, big or long, so I don't need a super deep hole. Just want to try and get the kind of the tips of the plant kind of a couple of inches, about 3 to 5 centimeters below the soil surface. And really that's about where the roots start, so it's about where I have it right now for this hole size. And the roots will spread out pretty well in there. I'm just going to put, like I said, a little bit of this compost in. spread these roots out a little bit, cover it back over. I'm just going to put a little bit more compost in just to loosen up some of this heavy clay here. And there, that's one hosta planted already, dug up and planted even. So that doesn't take much. I'm going to grab the little tag and actually the little water port that I had hooked up to it, and we'll move those both over. So now you can see this is, I was just sitting right about there, and you can just barely see a leaf poking out from behind that pot. That's the plant the yellow river I just planted there. And then I have the emerald rough cut. And I'm going to put it, I have a hosta, I don't know the variety of this hosta here, but I'm going to put the emerald rough cut in just right about there, and it should fill in that space pretty nice. And since it's such bright yellow, I think it'll look really good there and really draw some brightness. Not that I really want to draw my eye back under my patio, but might kind of draw your eye to it instead of whatever's in behind the patio. I don't know, that's my thoughts on that. So I'm going to put it back there, and yeah, it's just going to be the exact same thing again. So dig a hole, add a little compost, pop the plant in. I'll have to dig a bigger hole probably because this one's in a pot, but hopefully that'll be all right. And then there's actually a hanging basket just above it and another pot on the deck that are on automatic drip, and that usually kind of comes down and drips a little bit into that area, so it should water that plant quite nicely. But I think the spread on that should fill that in nice. So let's get planting. The spread on this is about 75 centimeters, so I want to make sure it has room to kind of do its thing. And I don't mind if it goes past this beam and over that way a little bit. Give it some room here so it doesn't eventually swallow this plant up. This one's been here for a lot of years. I think it's fairly close to its mature size here, I think. So if we go about here, I think that should give it a nice spread in here and still be able to get the sunshine in the morning. Move the gravel back. So I did run into landscape fabric here. I kind of thought I would, so I'm gonna go grab a knife and I can slit this open and make room for the plant. Okay, so I have a knife, so I'm just gonna cut an X on the landscape fabric and tuck the corners back underneath the other landscape fabric. And I can just take these corners and just fold them back. And come across more gravel. That gives a good area still here for the hosta to grow in. Set this guy to the side. Okay, so I don't know how well you can see it from your view, but there's a good deep hole that this plant will fit in. It's mostly gravel down here. There is clay I'm getting very close to the heavy clay layer. But I'm gonna put some of that compost in here again, kind of mix it in with this gravelly clay, and hopefully the roots will spread out into there. It's a pretty big change from the fancy potting soil it's been sitting in. The others that I planted were all bare root under here. So it'll be interesting to see how this does, because going from one planting medium that's so drastically different to the next, sometimes the roots don't want to do that, but I'm going to give it a shot with this. So I'm going to grab this guy. So nice. Put it in. I'll just bring everything back around it. So Hostas, I find, do quite well growing with a gravel mulch around them. They die right back in the winter, and then in the spring they will just push up, even if they've grown out into the mulch the root zone has, and they want to grow and put some leaves up through that. They generally can just push their way through the gravel in my experience, and I haven't had a lot of trouble with them being able to spread through the gravel and grow up through the gravel. So if that's your preferred mulch in a shady spot, then hostas will do just fine going through it. So let's go over to some dirt where it's a little nicer to dig and get the last hosta in. Better not forget, I made little tags for these so I'd know the varieties. Stick it into this guy here. There, hopefully that lasts and I'll know what variety it is for years. So the next space I'm going to be planting in, and I'm going to be putting this, what is it called, Dancing Darling? Yeah, Dancing Darling in, is over here. Now you may have seen me plant some Asclepias and phlox, lupins. I had a variety of perennial plants that are sun lovers that I tried to put in here last year. This has traditionally been fairly sunny, happy spot for sun-loving plants. But nothing thrived here, nothing did well, and my trees are getting larger, more mature, and I'm finding some of my sunny spots are getting less sunny through the years, which is what happens when you plant trees. So I'm thinking maybe this space needs something that wants a little more shade. It's been really hard for me to really assess that this year because we have had so many overcast, rainy days, which just is not normal here in Saskatchewan, Canada. But I am going to try this hosta here. Most yellow-leaved hostas will be quite happy with a little bit more sunshine than some of the darker varieties. It'll keep them with that more yellow tone a little bit better. So I think it'll be okay even if it's getting a little bit more sun, as long as it's not getting completely scorched in the hot afternoon sun. And because I do have some liatris and daylilies and things back in that direction, and that's where the afternoon sun will be coming from, I think it'll be okay even if it's getting a lot of morning sun and just hopefully not that hot afternoon sun. And I have run some drip in here, drip lines in the ground this year. I've taken some time to do that. So this is going to be planted right by one. And I'm just going to hope that that is a great place for this hosta. So I need to move this little obelisk. I'll have to find somewhere else for it to go because I love it. But I think an obelisk on a hosta, not quite the look I'm looking for, but we'll get it planted in here right about where that is. And it'll have some room to really spread out in that space. And I think it'll be a nice bright pop in and a different leaf texture than anything else that I have there. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully it grows well for me. This feels wrong because I've traditionally had sun-loving plants here, but even I planted some sweet peas on that trellis this spring, and even they don't want to grow here now. Is it just because we've been so overcast this year? I don't know, but I'd like to have something in this big empty space here, and I'm hoping the hosta is the ticket. So pull out the tag from the plant that didn't want to grow. So we'll pull aside the mulch and put just a little bit of compost in, and should be good to go. Here's that sad, I don't know if you can see it, this sad little sweet pea here. Here's the drip line, so right here by the roots. And this spreads about 60 centimeters, so if I put it right about here, that should be about perfect. This soil is actually quite rich. I don't think I need any compost in it. It's quite nice soil, but we'll put a little handful in. Not as much as with the gravelly guys. I think it's starting to rain here. Take this guy. I think we need to go a little bit deeper. there's a little bit of a small tree root here. I'm just trying to kind of dig around. Okay, put that all back in there with the compost. Try and get some mulch back around here. My little tag that I made. I'll put links down below if you're interested. I haven't used these over season yet. I don't know how they're going to stand up. They're just little plastic tags with the garden marker that's supposed to be good to hold up to the sun and rain and that. So I've been trying to get my hostas marked with that, and hopefully I'll know what's what down the years. So there, 3 hostas planted. So let's have a really quick look just to see some of the hostas that I planted in that video years ago and how they're doing, and then that'll wrap up this video. I will note there is, and amongst these poppies, a hosta right here, right very close to where I planted that one. So it should be pretty close to the right conditions for hosta to grow. That's just a division of a variety. I don't know what variety that is. There are several hostas in my yard that I put in years and years ago, and I have no idea what the varieties are. If you think you know, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know. They're so similar looking, it's hard to identify them once you lose the tags. So let's start our little tour where we just put the dancing darling. And then, like I said, there's a little unnamed variety just poking out amongst the poppies there. And then over, very difficult to see, under this ash tree, there are two hostas that are struggling, and they're both the Christmas tree variety. So there's one there, and there's a really small one right up about there. And it should be a beautiful hosta, and it should get to a nice size. I think they're just very, very dry under these ash trees. I need to work on getting some drip run just to those plants over here, and I think they'll be a lot happier. I think it's just too dry under the ash tree. The ash is probably taking a lot of nutrients out of the soil too, and they do need some. And again, just to give you a starting point, hopefully, of understanding, there's the one that I just planted there, the dancing darling. You're going past here, and there's a hosta just down here. So that's avocado planted in there, right by the rain barrel. So any overflow hits around there, keeps it nice. There are a ton of this kind of bluey gray hosta in here. I don't know what that variety is, but I have lots of them sprinkled around in there, as well as this one that kind of looks like, I think it's a Francis Williams, but I'm not sure if that's what it is, with the kind of bluey gray with a yellow margin. And then down at the far end is another avocado. Then there's two on the other side of my air conditioner here. Sorry, yeah, Francie. So very nice, a nice bright white margin. It kind of, I don't know, in my mind, distracts in either direction instead of just seeing an air conditioning unit and all this stuff on the side of my house. I see the hosta, and that's what draws my eye. This isn't a very used path in my yard, but it is a space we do go through occasionally, but not for like public use. So the other one is just on the other side of the air conditioner. Right there. And it's a little bit smaller, so I don't know if it just was a smaller root to begin with, or it's getting more sun on that side, I think. Maybe that's the difference. So it should also be getting more water, because I think the air exchanger or something kind of drips there. So coming back out of that little walkway, this is the back of my patio. So there's the planter box that I plant up with shade plants and more utility stuff, and you can just barely see down there. I'll walk over there in a minute, but there's two, I think they're called Albo Marginata. So very similar to the Francis Williams. Is that what I said that other one was? But they're named different, so there must be some differences in them. I think these have a slightly narrower leaf on them, but they seem to be similar in size and look. I think there's just a little bit more variation in the leaf color too. This has, whereas the other one is just kind of pure deep green with the cream margin, this has, I don't know how it shows on my camera, but there's kind of a variation of almost a dusty green going down into the cream color. I'll show you this guy here. So that's the other one, and you can see just it gets so much less light. It's a lot smaller, but it is blooming and it does seem happy there, so leave it there. And there's the other yellow river that I had kind of referred to before. So here's the yellow river I just moved. There's the emerald rough cut. This is a variety I do not know what it is. I've had it for years, and it always has, I always think, oh, I must have slug damage or something, but every year these leaves come up like this, so I don't know if they're supposed to look like this. I have a few, and it's just these few that look like that every year. Here's the other one. So I'm not sure, but they seem healthy and strong otherwise, but you can see like some of the leaves are fine, so I don't think they're supposed to be like that. If it's just getting more sun, these do get a lot of morning sun. I don't know. And then back here, kind of behind there and behind this tomato, there's an elegans. So this is one I planted in that video out of that order. Nice big kind of bluey green leaves. And I often have things planted here. I think it would probably get bigger if it got a bit more sun on it, but I like it there. This, I can't remember what it's called. Oh, this is another yellow river. Of course it is. And then I have a few more just unnamed varieties. I had planted two in that video back in behind here, and neither of them survived for whatever reason. I don't really know if it was just too dark or too dry or what it was, but they just didn't survive there. This is Raspberry Sunday. It's not from that video. I had that in a front pot one summer, and that's just where I put it. I absolutely love the just bright colors in it, and then those stems, gorgeous. This little guy is called Thunderbolt, and it's not doing a lot, and the other Thunderbolt I had died, so I'm not sure. I kind of think it was just supposed to be one Thunderbolt, and I think the other one, this was maybe just a tiny little division off that root, and it just needs time, because it seems fairly happy, though it's had a little bit of maybe sun and slug damage, but it's a striking plant, so hopefully we can get it going. This is little blue mouse ears. These, again, I'm not sure on the variety. They're similar to some on the other end of the yard. And I have one here that was struggling this year. It's usually huge and fills in this whole space, but we've done some digging around here the last few years, and I think it just maybe was too damaged and not taken care of afterwards. So hopefully it'll come back now that I kind of realize it's not doing well. Here's an albino, a Bequad drinking gourd. And I have two of these. So this is a smaller one. Again, like two plants in a very similar space. One's done a lot better than the other one, but I really like the look of these, how the leaves kind of cup up. So I'm hoping they come along. They're supposed to get quite large. And this, what was this called? It has a great name. What is it? Stained glass. So it's just the yellow leaves here. The others are cordyloin, I think, or elephant's ears, but I really like this, and it seems happy here. It's not huge, but it's doing well. A couple more just random guys, and then this I think is one from that video. Let me see. No, I don't have a name on it, so it must not have been. This one was, is this another Christmas tree? Yeah, so down in there is another Christmas tree. And this is just the side yard at the front of the house, and this one is called Wide Brim. And then there was another one right there, and it died. So hopefully you enjoyed seeing me plant a couple of varieties of hostas that were new to me in my yard here, and seeing a little update on some of the hostas that I planted about 3 years ago from an order, well, it was two orders actually, from Costco. So I'll link that video if you want to see what they looked like at the beginning. They were just bare root. And if I have my calculations right, I only lost 3 out of, I think there must have been a couple dozen plants. A dozen for sure. I'd have to look back through my notes. But I'm getting a real nice selection of hostas going in the yard here, and I really enjoy the plants. They're fairly easy care, easy maintenance. You can make them bigger and better with more water, and you know, like I said, top dressing them with a compost in the spring. But lots of times my hostas get almost neglected, and I don't know, I think they're still doing pretty well. If you have trouble with slugs, chewing on them, there's lots of different kinds of slug baits out there, or slug traps that you can use. So you just have to keep an eye on. So if you're seeing holes in your leaves, you probably have slugs, and you might need to get rid of them. Otherwise, the only other real big problems that I have found with hostas that can be an issue is if you have a really, like I said, if they're in a really hot sunny spot, they're not going to like it. The leaves are going to get brittle and dry up. If they're in really, really windy spaces, again, the leaves will get brown and dry because they don't want that. The more quilted, kind of puckery leaves that are tend to be thicker, they tend to deal better with the wind and with slugs. And then the other thing that can really take your hostas out in a hurry is, of course, hail. And it doesn't need to be a lot of hail to do a lot of damage, but a lot of times you can just pull off the damaged leaves and they will regrow over the season and come back for you if it's not too late in the season. And if nothing else, just cut them back and they'll come back the next spring usually, if they didn't lose too much energy, as long as they had enough energy in their roots to come back the next spring for you. So thanks for coming along with my hosta video today, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.